Hello explorers! Hello explorers! Hello explorers! Either has something to do with gravity. Hot water vents.
Alderney is a funny little island, and it seems to attract all sorts of funny people. And this story is about a well-known settler who lived here for many years. It's called Ernest Audrin. Ernest Audrin arrived in Alderney towards the beginning of the 20th century. His origins were vague. He claimed to be an orphan who was saved newborn from a wreck on which his parents had drowned. Maritime law at that time stipulated that a child born at sea in such circumstances adopted either the nationality of the ship where he was born or that of the first port of call. Ernest claimed to be stateless, as he couldn't remember the names of the boat or the port. Later on in life, he admitted that this was to avoid conscription into military service in France just before the Great War. His nickname, Bender, is inexplicable, and it doesn't mean what it means today. In Alderney, such cognomen were used to abound. For example, there was a Torbeau Simo and a Moulot Depot. And what is most odd, these nicknames passed from father to son. What did they mean? No one knew. Perhaps they were forgotten words belonging to the island's dying patois, the local Norman French dialect. When he arrived, he had nothing. But at his death in 1958, he owned 5 properties, and under his bed there was found an old tin box filled with banknotes amounting to £30,000. That's about 300,000 in today's money. He had earned such wealth through hard work and parsimony. He was a true Norman, tight-fisted, un clopoint, as they say across the way. His economic exploits became legendary on the island. He lived in an old, broken-down stone cottage in almost medieval conditions. A cold water tap was the only concession to modernity that he allowed. One winter he found a tree trunk washed up on the breach. He dragged it to the cottage and heaved it through a window so that the butt end lay on the hearth, where it burned night and day. The window stayed open until the trunk had burned down enough for it to be shut. This didn't seem to trouble him at all. Nevertheless, he was acknowledged to be a superb seaman. He had an old boat with an unreliable petrol engine, but that didn't matter. He preferred sail and oar. As to the recycling of materials, he was in the vanguard. Around the island, there are 7 forts built on rocky islets during the reign of Queen Victoria. After the 1418 war, the British government abandoned them and they soon fell into ruin. Bender exploited one of them, Umo Florence, as a brick quarry. He used to tow an old hulk that he had acquired very, very cheaply and anchor it close to the shore. He then would fill it with bricks taken from the internal walls and tow it to the harbour in Bray, where he sold them to the local builders. In summer, he preyed on gullible tourists. On one occasion, a group of 4 hired him to take them on a pleasure trip to Aumonville, where they hoped to have lunch in a little restaurant that was known to serve unforgettable seafood. On board Bender's boat, there were never any passengers. Pumping the bilge was the lightest task. In order to economise on petrol, Bender sculled all the way across the race. On the return to Alderney, the passengers had to row. It was noticed the next day that some of his victims had their hands wrapped in bandages. When the weather was foggy, he would hover around Bray Beach, that's the main tourist beach in Alderney, offering to take people on a sea trip round Alderney. As soon as he had a boatload, he would strike out into the bay in thick visibility. After about an hour, he'd return to the beach. "I'm very sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that you were unable to see the magnificent coast of Alderney." How could they complain? In 1939, the islanders were all evacuated to England. Bender didn't want to go with the others. He and a buddy crossed the channel in his little undecked 7.5-metre boat. As protection against possible air attack by German fighters, he carried on board a sheet of cast iron. After 3 days, they landed in Salcombe in Devon, where he remained during the next 5 wartime years, plying his trade as a fisherman. By chance, in 1962, I settled in Salcombe, where I had found employment as a professional yachtsman. As soon as the local people learnt that I'd come from Alderney, everyone wanted to know whether I knew Bender. The fishermen especially remembered him with respect for his seamanship and his courage in going out every day with his sheet of cast iron. He was an old rascal perhaps, but admirable all the same.